Hello and welcome to World News here on TVP World. It's 12 o'clock local time in Warsaw. A pivotal moment for Ukraine-Russia peace talks, or yet another round of stalled negotiations. Well, on Monday, the United States and Russia began discussions in Saudi Arabia aimed at making progress towards a broad ceasefire in Ukraine. Delegations from both countries are discussing ways to ensure the safety of shipping in the Black Sea with the long-term goal of a more permanent peace settlement. Now, according to information reported by Reuters, Kremlin officials said that Moscow and Washington shared a common understanding on the need to move towards a settlement to end the war. However, there are still many different aspects of the agreement that must be worked out. The American delegation is led by the senior director of the White House National Security Council, Andrew Peek, while Russia is represented by the chairman of the Federation Council Committee on International Affairs, Grigory Karasin. Also taking part in today's meeting is the head of the Russian Federal Security Service, Sergei Beseda. The meeting comes a day after delegates from Washington and Kiev had their own discussions. Monday's meetings come on the heels of a gathering of U.S. and Ukrainian delegations in Saudi Arabia on Sunday to talk about the partial ceasefire on energy and critical infrastructure strikes. Ukraine's defense minister, Rustem Umerov, was the head of the delegation from Kyiv for the talks, which were part of a U.S. diplomatic push to end the war in Ukraine.
We have concluded our meeting with the American team. The discussion was productive and focused. We addressed key points, including energy. President Volodymyr Zelensky's goal is to secure a just and lasting peace for our country and our people, and by extension for all of Europe. We are working to make that goal a reality.
Now, a meeting of the U.S. and Russian delegations are now underway, this a day following the Ukrainian-American talks in Saudi Arabia. Let's cross now live straight to our Kyiv correspondent, Oz Chatterjee, for Ukraine's reaction. Hello, Oz. Now, what opinions are coming out of Ukraine on the latest round of ongoing discussions?
Well, I mean, look, the Ukrainians have made their position very clear over the last few weeks. Andrei Sybiha, the foreign minister, set out in an interview the red lines Ukraine wasn't willing to let go of, that they're not willing to concede more territory to the Russians. They want the return of all the children that Russian authorities have kidnapped from places like Mariupol that they've occupied. The Ukrainians certainly aren't going to accept conditions on them that they find unacceptable. I mean, if you take a listen to Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy for the Middle East, the things that he's been saying in recent interviews about these regions that Russia has illegally annexed, viewing them as being Russian, that's not going to go down well with the Ukrainian government, and they're not going to accept conditions like that. So, I mean, look, there is a lot of hope here in Ukraine, don't get me wrong, about a ceasefire proposal that they hope the Americans can reach. But at the same time, the Ukrainians are not willing to give away their sovereignty in exchange for that ceasefire deal with the Russians, particularly given they don't trust the Russians to stick to it anyway. They keep bringing up one point, Zelensky in particular, keeps bringing up one point in these discussions, that the US needs to apply more pressure on Russia. So far, the US has not been willing to apply any pressure on Russia. All the pressure is coming on the Ukrainian side. We'll see how that strategy works out for them in the long run. For now, we wait and see what the latest lines will be coming out of those talks in Saudi Arabia today.
Right. I mean, on the sidelines, here we have, trying to have prospective talks in Saudi Arabia. But at the same time, we still have Russian attacks ongoing on Ukraine. Oz, let me ask you about Sunday night's attacks on Kyiv and Ukraine's special operations forces that launched a successful attack on Belgorod. What can you tell us about it?
Well, look, the Russian attacks on Ukraine have been absolutely relentless for the last few days. Every night in my apartment, I'm being awoken by the sound of really heavy anti-aircraft fire. All across Kyiv. Kyiv's a large city. These explosions can be heard all across the sky. On the weekend, we had 3 people killed in Kyiv, including a 5-year-old girl and her father, as a drone hit a residential building. So very, very difficult position for the Ukrainians to be in. However, they are hitting back. The news is that they conducted a daring special forces raid inside the Belgorod region of Russia And as you see on your screens, they destroyed 4 Russian helicopters. That's 2 Ka-52s and 2 Mi-8 helicopters. So these are quite expensive military helicopters that the Russians have been using to dominate the skies around that border area. So the Ukrainians are going to be quite happy with that. They use these HIMARS, the Western-supplied high mobility army rocket system, to use inside Russia. So this is again proving that they are using Western weapon systems across the border inside Russia. That was something that was a question mark as to whether that would happen under the Trump administration. It clearly is happening. As to the extent of whether they will receive new shipments of these HIMARS, that remains to be seen on the Trump administration. For now, again, Ukrainians coming under relentless assault. They are certainly fighting back inside the territory of Russia, but all eyes are now on Saudi Arabia to see what lines come out of the negotiations there this week, Diana.
And only time will tell. Thank you so much, Oz Chatterjee, coming to us live from Kyiv. The state-owned Ukrainian Railways company was the target of a large-scale and sophisticated cyber attack over the weekend. According to the management, the restoration of all systems is ongoing. Now, in a statement, the state railway operator announced that the company's website and application became unavailable on March 23rd over a, quote, technical failure. The perpetrators, however, failed to disrupt railway traffic as trains ran without delay. The company also added that due to previous cyber attacks, the railway operator had backup protocols in place. Russia has launched multiple cyber attacks since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, with many Ukrainian companies and state agencies being their main targets. Moving on now to Turkey. The Turkish police detained 10 journalists, among them foreign correspondents who were reporting on the protests happening across the country. Now, they were detained as tens of thousands of protesters took part in demonstrations against the arrest of Ekrem İmamoğlu, the main rival of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In response to the unrest, police used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse the crowds.
Sunday night saw ramping up of the largest protest Turkey has seen in more than a decade. Crowds gathered near Istanbul's city hall for the 5th night in a row, waving Turkish flags and chanting in front of a row of riot police. Officers could be seen firing water cannons at some of the protesters and using pepper spray. In total, rallies took place in at least 55 out of Turkey's 81 provinces, or in more than 2/3 of the country. In response, President Erdogan condemned the demonstrations and accused the opposition Republican People's Party of disturbing peace and polarizing Turkish society. Erdogan will also hold a meeting with the Turkish Cabinet of Ministers, where he is expected to comment on the ongoing demonstrations. The protests began after Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, and Erdogan's main political rival, was detained and then formally arrested on charges of corruption. In the same week, he was due to be selected as the Republican Party's presidential nominee.
Now, this is not the first time an opposition politician has been arrested in Turkey. That's according to Konrad Zaswoft, an assistant professor at the University of Warsaw. Now, Zaswoft recently joined TVP World to discuss the arrest of Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, and the main rival to the country's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Let's listen in.
I wouldn't say that this is something which is totally new, the arrest of opposition politicians. We witnessed a lot of arrests of opposition politicians, but they were limited mostly to the pro-Kurdish party politicians in Turkey. And they were quite similar, also accusation about the cooperation with PKK, the terrorist organization, Kurdish terrorist organization, which is also considered to be terrorist by the European Union. But these accusations were, let's say, a little bit doubtful, because in this Turkish community, you can always meet someone who knows someone else who has some links to this huge organization, which is PKK. So it's very easy to accuse someone that he has some distant links to someone who knows someone.
Now, Turkey isn't the only country where protests are erupting. Demonstrations in Serbia are also ongoing. A crowd gathered at a police station in the Serbian city of Niš on Sunday, demanding the release of a medical student arrested during anti-government protests on Saturday. Niš University medical student Arsen Milosavljević is being detained on suspicion of violent conduct, according to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Niš has seen repeated protests as part of a wave of dissatisfaction sweeping across Serbia since the November 1st roof collapse at the main train station in Novi Sad, which killed 15 people. On Friday, a 19-year-old Vukašin Crnčević became the 16th fatality of the collapse, succumbing to his injuries sustained during the tragedy. Innocent men don't run from anything. These are the words of the infamous social media influencer Andrew Tate, who, along with his brother Tristan, is back in Romania for a court appearance. Now, the two face charges of human trafficking, rape, and running a criminal group that sexually exploited women. Now, their return to Romania comes nearly a month after their travel ban was lifted, reportedly under pressure from U.S. officials. As soon as they were free to travel, the brothers flew to Florida, where they became the focus of another criminal investigation regarding alleged soliciting, trafficking, and preying upon women. On Monday, they are back in Romania to appear in a Bucharest court, which previously ruled that failing to return for this appearance could result in even stricter legal measures, including preventative detention.
I think I'm investigated everywhere on the planet because I'm one of the most important people on the planet.
And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.